Welcome to Corona Stories from Observing the Process. I'm your host, Alex Greenberg. And before we start, I'm hoping you can help me out by supporting the show. You can do this by going to my website, observingtheprocess.com. For just $5 a month or $50 for the year, you can become a monthly supporter. This show relies on listener support to stay on the air. So if you find this content valuable, I hope you will consider subscribing. You can find a link to subscribe in the description of this podcast. If you can't support monthly, no worries. You can help out by rating and reviewing on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. You can share it with your friends, you can blog about it, or discuss it on your own podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel and like this video. Thank you for supporting the show. Listeners like you make it possible. If you are looking for information on how to protect yourself and stay safe from COVID-19, please get information from the CDC or the World Health Organization. Today on the show, I had Gustav Nyman. Gustav is an engineer who is based in Sweden but is currently in Taiwan. Please welcome Gustav Nyman.
In the land of China, people hardly got nothing at all.
No possessions?
And in China, they never go to church.
No religion too?
Or do magic.
Well, it's easy if you try, Dick.
Hey, Alex.
Hey, Gustav. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Good evening.
Yeah, good morning. Are you still in Taiwan right now?
Still in Taiwan, and it's just 10 a.m. in the morning right now.
Nice, nice. How's Taiwan been? You been getting out much now since I know you're out of quarantine at this point.
Oh yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, obviously the weather is way better than Sweden, but it's a nice place to be right now because it's not as restricted as I guess the rest of the world. So we can still go outside and go to the beach and walk around and go to restaurants and yeah, basically everything.
Awesome. Let's definitely get into that in a little bit. As we start, I was thinking maybe you could give a brief introduction of yourself, where you're based, what you do for work, that kind of stuff.
Okay, well, my name is Gustav Nyman. I'm from Sweden, and I have a background in engineering. And I guess the past 10 years, I've been living most of my time in China and also America, working with product development and business development. And currently, me and my wife, we moved back to Sweden in around beginning of January this year. And I am working with product development. I have a product development agency in Sweden and also in China, where we help companies developing hardware and smart hardware products.
Great. When and how did you first hear about the coronavirus?
Oh, wow. I think it was early January. Probably, I think about around the same time as I moved back to Sweden, I think.
Right. So you were back in Sweden exactly, at that point. Yeah, it was probably early January, or for me, it was end of January when I first heard about it. I was in San Diego. But you were in Sweden at that point?
Let me think. I think we went back to Sweden on January 14. I can't. I think at that time, I think I heard about it coming from China.
Right. What were your first impressions
blown
of
up
it?
Or anything like that. Can't really remember what I was thinking.
Like, did you take it seriously or not?
Really took it serious. No, I think I wasn't really. I don't think anybody was taking it seriously at that point, except. I mean, my fiance Paisley, she's from Taiwan, right? And she was mentioning it to me because they were talking about it on the news in Taiwan, but I wasn't really paying attention to what was happening because it hadn't really blown up, as I mentioned.
Yeah, for me, it was like I was just seeing new like memes on WeChat. I was really confused because there was this one girl in Wuhan who her name was Flora. She was an American, or she still is. I think she's around, and she was like making a big deal out of it on WeChat groups and stuff like that. People were screenshotting it and kind of making fun of her, which is, a complete 180, because like it didn't seem like a big deal at the time. It's like, oh, like they're locking down Wuhan, I'm going to be stuck here. And so I was seeing these memes and I thought the whole thing was called Flora. I had no idea what was going on. And then I later learned like it was about the coronavirus and all that stuff. But yeah, man, I was hoping to talk to you, I guess specifically about like focusing on two kind of things. First of all, you went through quarantine in Taiwan. So maybe you can talk about that. You can talk about your experience with that, because I followed you on Instagram and it's a pretty interesting story. So I'd love to hear from you what happened.
Okay, cool. Well, we were back in Sweden in March, right? And we had actually planned to go back to Taiwan in April. But since we saw what was happening around the world, I guess we kind of panicked a little bit. We thought, like, if we don't leave right now, we probably not going to get into Taiwan, right? All the flights stopped. Countries started to close in the borders and so on. So on March 14, we took a flight to Taiwan, and that was actually the same day as the Swedish government went on with the recommendation that Swedish people should not do unnecessary travels. And we left at the same day, like 5 or 6 hours before they came out with the recommendation. And then at the same day, Taiwan also went out with the recommendation, or they changed the regulation so that everyone who enters Taiwan from March 14 have to do a home quarantine, a mandatory home quarantine.
Right.
So we managed to get back to Taiwan, but when we got there, we knew we had to stay home for 14 days.
Where was home? Were you guys getting a hotel or staying with Paisley, or?
Well, so that was the thing. So you have, if you don't have a home, the Taiwan government will arrange like a quarantine hotel, basically, that you have to pay for. We were lucky that Paisley's family, they had an apartment that we could stay in at the time, and they could help out with arranging like food and drinks deliveries to the house, because obviously you can't exit the house. So we landed in Taoyuan International Airport in Taipei, and then when we arrived there, first thing that happened was that they checked the temperature. They asked if we had any symptoms of having the virus, and they made it very clear that if you want to enter Taiwan, you need to do a mandatory quarantine.
And you were totally fine with that? Like it wasn't like a decision where, maybe we shouldn't do this, or because I would be totally fine with a quarantine. It seems reasonable to do. But I've talked to some friends and they're very like hesitant about going back to China right now. I mean, like right now you can't, but even when you had the option knowing going in that you'd have to deal with a quarantine, they're kind of like, yeah, that's like something I'm just not willing to do. Like, especially dealing with like the hotel and stuff. But, yeah, so was that like a scary moment, or were you just kind of like, yeah, you expected it?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we had already decided that we are going to Taiwan. We're going to stay there for a month and a half. And I mean, we were together, so we could do the home quarantine in the same apartment, right? So if that wasn't the case, and you have to do it yourself, and you have to stay in like a small hotel room, then I probably wouldn't have done it. But I was also kind of naive. I was thinking like 2 weeks. I mean, it can't be that bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have a big respect for all of this right now. I don't think anybody's. I mean, I wish nobody have to be in like a 14-day or longer quarantine, because it's honestly not fun.
Tell me about they issued you like a phone. What was that about? I was so surprised to see you guys got like a phone.
Oh yeah. So when we arrived, they gave us all the information about the virus, what we can do and what we cannot do, and they gave us like a health declaration for our home quarantine stay. Right, basically a document saying that we have to register where we are staying, where our home will be for these 14 days, our addresses, phone numbers, which countries we have visited in the past 14 days. And they also gave us a record that we would be filling in during the quarantine. So every day we would need to check our temperature. We have to fill in if we have any symptoms like fever, runny nose, coughing, breathing difficulties, or if we feel any kind of like pain in the body. Right. And we have to do this every day and fill in the record. And one thing which they mentioned is that you have to have a phone. Like you have to have a phone number. We have to be able to reach you guys 24/7. and Paisley has a Taiwanese phone number, so for her it's fine. And I said I have a Swedish phone number, and they said okay, that's fine. But once we actually landed in Taiwan and we drove down to like we managed to get to Chiayi City where we've been since then. Right. We got to our quarantine home, and then actually like a local police officer actually came to our place, and they gave us more documentations. They gave us like a home quarantine package, which I can mention in a bit. And he said, like, do you have a Swedish phone? No. Do you have a Taiwanese phone? And I said, no. And he said, okay, we will arrange you a Taiwanese phone. And we're like, okay. So he went back to the police station, and he came back like two hours later with like a brand new Samsung A20 or something like that. Wow. With like a phone number. And he said I could use it for calling, I could use it for surfing the web. But I have to have it fully, like I have to have battery on it at all time, and I have to have it basically next to me for 24 hours for 14 days, which is kind of crazy. Kind of unprecedented, to be honest. I mean, like, I think it's all done in good intention, but like when you think about the possibilities of what they're able to do, you know, if they wanted to be malicious, it's just interesting that like you're kind of forced to do it. And I don't know, because like think about all the things they could be listening. That phone could be a recording device. That phone could be a tracking device. And I think it obviously was to try and make sure that you stay inside. I've never heard of any other country doing this for quarantine, and I'm not making any statements on whether I think they did. I just think it's interesting that like we live in a time where they're able to do that if they wanted to. No, that's true. I mean, it's definitely a tracking device, and they weren't hiding it or anything like that. They said that we have to be able to reach you 24/7. We will be tracking the location of this phone during this time, so don't go outside. But yeah, coming from Sweden, it's a bit different. A bit different. Yeah. So you said what else was in the home quarantine package? Like you mentioned, you could talk about that a little later. Yeah, they gave us a bag, and we looked in the bag, and obviously they had 14 face masks, so one for each day. And they had this information sheets, basically explaining how to wash your hands, how to take care of your hygiene, and so on. They have disinfectant. They had soap, and also they had a blow up exercise ball. Really? A red ball that you can blow it up. And on the package there was also a QR code. And if you scan the QR code, you will be directed to this YouTube exercise video of how to use the ball. No way. Really cool. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Actually, maybe you can send me that YouTube link. I wasn't expecting it. Send me that YouTube link. I will. I want to check that out. I spoke to another friend who who did the home quarantine in a different city, and she mentioned that each city has a little bit different items in the quarantine bag. So she did not have the ball, but she had she had some kind of game or some sort.
Interesting. Yeah. Other than that, I've heard that Taiwan is one of the best countries in the world to have dealt with this. I've heard by measuring by the amount of people that have died, the amount of people that have gotten sick, just overall, the whole way they've handled it has been the best. So now that you've been out of quarantine for a little bit, what are your thoughts being on the ground, like going around? What is daily life like now after quarantine?
Yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, when we came in, this was March 16th.
Yes, you've been there exactly a month now. It's been one full month, actually.
Yeah, it's 1 month. And when we came in, it was 100 confirmed cases of COVID patients. And I think only one, maybe two people had passed away due to the virus. And now, I mean, when we came in, the reason they closed the border because they saw more and more import cases, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
So then it became like a big thing, and then they decided to close the border or limit the amount of people that are entering Taiwan. And I mean, it's been helping, and they've been really good at controlling the number of people who have had the virus. And today there's only about 400 people confirmed cases.
It's pretty incredible.
They are testing. It's amazing. 400 people, and they've been testing like tens of thousands of people. I don't even know how many, but they really try to control the numbers. But generally, I'm in Jai, and I think that it looks a little bit different, and it's a little bit more restricted what you can do if you're in the bigger cities, or in the bigger city like in Taipei, for example. I heard from some friends that if you want to enter a restaurant, or most of the restaurants, for example, they are always checking your temperature. Everybody around the city, on the subway, everyone's wearing face masks. But in Jai, in the middle of Taiwan, where I am right now, it's not as it's not as, I guess it's a little more relaxed.
Right. Is the border still closed there for Taiwan right now? Like you're not allowed to enter, and like anyone like me who has a Chinese visa for China, I guess rather, would I not be allowed to enter Taiwan? Do you know anything about that?
As I understand it, if you're Taiwanese, or if you have a residence permit in Taiwan, you can enter freely. But other than that, you cannot. Like I have a tourist visa on arrival, right?
Right.
So I would not be able to enter Taiwan at this point.
Oh yeah, that was, I guess, another question. So you're on a tourist visa on arrival. Is that like 60 days or?
It's 90 days.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Since they decided to close the borders, they also, I think they changed it so that if you're already in Taiwan on a tourist visa, I think they extended the visa stay for another 30 days.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people here that weren't able to fly back home to America or to Europe because all the flights were canceled.
Yeah. Wow. Imagine like only planning to be there for a little bit. At least like you have ties with Paisley, you know, and like you have a kind of a reason to be there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we were pretty lucky because if we came in on like 3 or 4 days before they closed the border.
Yeah. I kind of wish I went back to China before they closed the border, but I'm kind of okay. It's like 50-50. It's good and it's not good. It's like, I guess I'm relatively more safe here just staying in New York. Well, New York is like the worst place right now, but I'm in Long Island and I'm with my family, and, you know, it is what it is. In China, it's kind of like I could go back to a little bit more of a normal life right now, but it's the future is just so uncertain with whether a second wave could come or, what's going to really happen. How do you deal with that? The uncertainty of the future. Does that like, is that a thought for you, or is that something that doesn't bother you too much?
Well, I really realized pretty early actually that we will not be able to like plan out the rest of the year very well, right? Like it's a little bit it's so different because it was so difficult because we plan to be in Sweden, and then our businesses will take us back and forth between Sweden and China. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I cannot enter China right now, but they will probably open up the borders, but who knows, but probably in like a few months, right? And also going back and forth with Taiwan, like I guess we realized we can't make strict plans, right?
Yeah, that's
for the rest of the year. I guess it's tough. Like we wrapping our heads around that as we go.
Yeah, that's what I totally agree. Like
same with you hadn't planned to stay in States for this long, right?
No. I was hoping. I mean, the plan was to be back in China right after Chinese New Year, and that's kind of when this was all. Like it started to become big at the beginning of February, and then I'm like, oh yeah, there's no way I'm getting back the middle of February. And now I guess we're in the middle of April. And yeah, it's just kind of like, how much longer is this going to go? I mean, there's no sign of the Chinese government opening the border anytime soon. It feels like it's like the earliest could be middle of May, but realistically it could be, June or even July. It just, no one really has a clear idea of what's going to happen. And Fulden and I are paying rent in Shanghai right now. So it's just kind of very like we're trying to figure out, should we even get rid of the apartment and just like move all our stuff to storage, and that's a whole ordeal. So yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty in the future, and I like what you were saying. Like I think you and I are similar. We try and plan our years out. Like I was in the midst of planning my year out in January to try and get a new job, like kind of not freelance as much and get a full-time job. And now, that's totally out the window. You like places aren't accepting applications. It's just not in the cards right now until the economy opens back up. So it's, I think it's a tough time to plan. And when you're not able to plan, it makes things a lot harder.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So
but it's I guess because we are very grateful to be in Taiwan right now because there's basically no travel restrictions.
Right.
The economy has not closed down. Most of the factories, businesses are still running. The businesses which are having a hard time right now is the travel industry. Hotels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And also in China as well. Like if we would be in China right now, we would be able to travel around. I mean, the factories it's been running for several months now. Most of the economy is back to normal, right?
Yeah.
Which is definitely not the case in where you are, and also back home in Sweden.
Well, let's talk about that. Because I was reading that Sweden's approach is very different from the rest of the world. They're taking kind of a wait and see approach, and so I was reading actually that they are quite very open. But maybe you can tell me how your experience talking to friends and stuff like that.
I think for when it all started, everybody including myself as well, like, everyone was so naive, right? About the whole thing, because we saw it move from Wuhan in China, spread throughout the world, and then it really started gain attention in northern Italy, for example. and they had a hard time there, and everybody saw it happening in Sweden, but still nobody. I guess we were a little bit too slow and a little bit naive on how fast it could spread, or if it could spread to Sweden, and what would happen if it did, and so on. But basically, no one was prepared.
Yeah. It's hard to say what the right answers could have been to help avoid all the problems that we're seeing happening right now. But I was reading that just Sweden has the mentality that most people are going to get it anyways, so we're not trying to fight it as much as other countries are. Have you not heard that, or?
No, absolutely. I of course I follow the news, and I've seen some kind of opinions on how to handle it or not. And I'm not an expert on the field. The only thing that I think that we could have handled better would be to be more proactive at the beginning, so we wouldn't need to close down the economy, basically.
Right. I guess I'm most curious in your friends and families, their thoughts on what's going on the ground in Sweden right now, how people, for example, in your hometown are dealing with it, and whether they feel that people should be more quarantined, or if they're okay with kind of things staying normal as possible.
Everyone, the solidarity is still pretty good there. People, at least among my friends and family, people avoid going to public spaces. If you can work from home, you work from home. You don't go to see your elderly. You stay away from you put some space in between if you go to the supermarket and so on. But it's not as but people. Most people are okay with not staying at home all the time. You still have to go out to exercise. You still need to be able to go to the supermarket, for example. Some people still go to work, but are maybe a little bit more careful of their hygiene and this and judging is this important? Is that not important, or less important? Yeah, but it's been pretty bad. It's been really bad in Sweden. Let's hope it's not going to get even worse.
Well, Gustav,
it's really a tough couple of months.
Thank you so much for your time. As we start to wrap up, I'm wondering, what does the future hold for you? What's kind of your day by day, maybe week by week, or even month by month plan for trying to get back to normal? What are your thoughts?
Well, we take it as we go, right? But business wise, it hasn't really work wise, it hasn't really affected it too much, because everything is still up and running in Asia, right? And of course, we're moving all the meetings to having digital meetings, avoiding. Yeah, basically, we don't go to big events and stuff like that, and most events are canceled anyway. But right now, I'm still feel pretty okay with everything.
That's good.
Especially since me and Paisley we can still be together.
Yeah.
We're not stuck, because I know some people, they are they can't be with their partners, right? But they're in different parts of the world and they can't travel in and out. It's terrible. So I'm just happy that we are healthy, our parents are healthy, our friends are healthy, and I hope it's going to stay.
Great.
Yeah, I hope it's going to stay good.
Gustav, thank you so much for your time. I hope we can get to meet up sometime in the future soon. Go for a skate.
Absolutely. Wish you all the best, Alex. And I think you should post more videos of you surfing.
I think I will, man. As soon as I can get some more clips. That's what we got to do. We got to go for a surf session. That's what I want to do with you, Goose.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
All right, man.
So when everything's over, you should come to Taiwan and we go surf.
Yeah, dude. For sure. I'm so down. All right, man. Talk to you later.
Cool. Take care.
Peace.
Bye.
Boom. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this podcast valuable, there are many ways you can support it. The best way is by going to my website, observingtheprocess.com. For just $5 a month or $50 for the year, you can become a monthly supporter. This show relies on listener support to stay on the air, so if you find this content valuable, I hope you will consider subscribing. You can find a link to subscribe in the description of this podcast. If you can't support monthly, no worries. You can help out by rating and reviewing on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. You can share it with your friends, you can blog about it, or discuss it on your own podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to my channel and like this video. Thank you for supporting the show. Listeners like you make it possible. If you are looking for information on how to protect yourself and stay safe from COVID-19, please get information from the CDC or the World Health Organization. Also, if you enjoyed the intro and outro music, it was made by my brother, Danny Greenberg. You can go and check out his beats on Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube, or SoundCloud. He goes by the name Estoric, Estoric. All right, that's it for now.